Hello. I know it's been a while. Y'all haven't heard from me from a really long time. I've been super busy with just bullshit at work. And, come on, kitty. Uh, just bullshit at work. And, uh, I haven't really been doing much. Been trying to find games to get into. But just kind of dried up. Haven't had a roommate in a while. Kind of living check to check. So I've been focusing on that stuff. But anyway. I wanted to talk about, I noticed that of all the things, the garbage in the media, uh, I haven't seen anything on, like, video game violence, per se. In fact, quite the opposite. I see more of a promotion on, like, buy this game, try this game, that's good, healthy things, good healthy news for gamers that gaming is part of the mainstream now. People are getting more involved with the technology of the world. People get to just get in there and find out what they like. It's great. But problem becomes, notice in the past there used to be somewhat of a concern, for like the rating, and I know it looks like I'm wearing lipstick, but I promise it's just the camera. I don't know. But, and, just blow it out your butt, comment, whatever, I don't care. I'm trying to help you out, so, cut me some slack. I'm sick. Leave me alone. But, like, you can tell this is uncut, unprofessional, I don't care. I'm not an expert, whatever. But, it's like a famous quote I say. Let me get to the point. So I wanted to talk about fictional versus non-fictional violence, and the many gray areas that we face today as a society as far as gaming goes. And basically, long ago, and back when games were good. You mainly just had games that focused on non-fictional versus non-fictional violence. Mario Kart, Banjo-Kazooie, Pokemon Stadium. Pokemon in general, an entire franchise based on non-fictional violence in a non-fictional world. And you don't see those people, like, of course you have, like, fanboys, fangirls, the extremists, crazy people. That's fine. Let them do their thing. But you never see, like, crimes or, like, hardcore, like, and if you do, okay, like, whatever, point taken. But still, like, majority, very short percentage of, violence in that regard. It sort of started becoming a problem after Grand Theft Auto, and it took a while for that to happen. And you know what it was? It wasn't really Grand Theft Auto, because the game makers and those people, they did their job, because they put on the rating, M. What does M mean? Everybody together. M means mature. Okay, so mature is usually 20 plus. That's fair. Honestly, you could be 13 up and play, San Andreas. That was sort of a soft restriction, because everybody was playing it. But then it kind of escalated from there. Like, there's a difference between desensitized and traumatized. When someone's traumatized, it means they've had too much exposure to, like, non-fictional violence in a non-fictional world. And you kind of wonder, like, what do you mean by that? Well, you know what traumatized is. You know what it means to... You may not know personally what it means to be traumatized, but you know that people are traumatized when they see things they're not used to that can actually happen. But being desensitized, the way not to be desensitized is keeping violence fictional in a fictional world. But as soon as you add, like, non-fictional violence to a fictional world, Now, this could be like medieval times. This could be something that, normally wouldn't happen in our century, or just kind of feudal make-up believe, stuff. But, like, it contains blood and gore, your basic, wow, that's a lot. Um, those that are traumatized or tend to subconsciously carry on. Uh, I don't want to speak too far. Basically, traumatized people have baggage. It kind of sticks to them, and it's not their fault. And you shouldn't blame people for their experiences and just come some slack. But like when I'm sort of jumping in between two topics. Basically, don't buy your kids games and be like, here, shut up. Like buy it because it's something they want, not to get them to shut up. And if it's something that you don't think is good for them, then you need to look into it, because usually that's bad. Like, you need to pay attention. You need to, and if you're not, like, if you're like saying right now, well, I'm not an expert or gamer, or like, you should know, like, San Andreas, another perfect example. Look at the box art. You see titties and, like, well, not openly, whatever. But you see, guns and things you would normally associate with things that a 10-year-old would not be associated with, unless they're used to that. A good example of being desensitized. Desensitized. Once you're desensitized, you can do anything. Like, I have a nephew who, and bless his heart, he bought Payday 2, and his parents told him, he's like, look, is this, they asked me, because I'm an expert, they're like, is this a bad game? And I'm like, it has profanity. I'm not gonna lie. And it's non-fictional violence in a non-fictional world, but it's in a non-fictional situation. You know what I mean? Like, no actual bank robbery goes that far unless it's, you know what I mean. Like, it's exactly like the setting. The setting is non-fictional, and you can tell. Like, it's just basic. Now, another good point to make is an online community. An online community can throw off, depending on how free it is, can throw off the rating completely of how a game is. Because you don't know what your child is exposed to now. In fact, you're no longer in control of what they can be exposed to. So, just, I kind of wanted to throw that out there. Just kind of, it's smart to pay attention to what your child is getting involved in, because you don't know. Sorry. But you don't really know unless you kind of just take a look. But it's a lot of the newer games right now, and that's just it. Mainstream society is like, you need to buy your children these games because they're fun. That's not really debatable, because, why release a game or why sell a game that isn't fun? No Man's Sky. But, like, it's hard, to kind of have that involvement in what your children do. And that's another reason why I like the Nintendo Switch, because you can kind of, there's an app that lets your phone connect to the Switch and, like, see what your kid's doing. I'm not saying, spy on them, but, keep track of game time and, like, oh, this rating and they're so old, and yeah, I'm sure there's, like, recording software. You can see, like, wow, they're pretty good at this game. But anyway, keep it constructive. But, or like, dude, I saw your score. It was whatever, stuff like that. But, it's, I noticed that there's this unhealthy habit where people just buy things because they're just like, oh, they want this, so I'll just give it to them. Well, no, like, question, like, why do they want this? Take some time. Every game has a trailer. Every game has a commercial. So just like take the 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes in the commercial, you already know what kind of game is this. Okay, is this some top-down stupid strategy game? Okay, whatever, they're fine. Or is this some first-person shooter where they talk to people over a headset that they don't know? Because then you have those features that lets you add those people. But like just and I'm not saying this in general to anybody. I'm just like, I just notice it. I just noticed the media doesn't really talk about like game ratings anymore, unless you're watching like stupid tabloid, reading, just stupid fake news. You already know. But I just think people should be cautious, um, not to expose like younger minds to non-fictional violence in a non-fictional setting, like something that could actually happen, like Grand Theft Auto. But try to be more like, it's okay if you kind of throw. Well, it's sort of a gray area when you throw, because it's got to be the right kind of kid, when you throw them into a fictional world with fictional violence, because then they'll be like, man, this is awesome, this is addictive. Or non-fictional violence into a fictional world, and then you're just like, huh, well, I can tell this is fake. It all depends on if your kid's either to differentiate the difference between right and wrong. Like they have to decide that for themselves, because in the end it's not you that the game is affecting. It's whoever's playing it. It's the kid. Like um you don't know what they take to heart. And me, I had kind of a distant relationship with my father and my family in general, because I just didn't want to leave the room, because if I did, I got in trouble. Kind of, it's just gray area. But so me, I pretty much raised myself on games, and most of my favorite games, and like I said back then, they were amazing. Was non-fictional. I mean, fictional versus fictional violence, or non-fiction, fictional violence in a fictional world. But later, I started to develop. Like I did get to play San Andreas. I think my brother got it or something, and I played it and I liked it. But I knew that it was fictional. You know that's when it becomes the kicker. Is when your kid can look at a game and say, these are things that I shouldn't do in the real world. And once you get your kid to that goal, you pretty much have your best friend, just the safest kid in the world, and he'll be able to help other people too. Just and it doesn't hurt to educate him either. Like don't punish him for doing something wrong. Explain why it's wrong and be like, man, come on, we can do better than this. You're better than this. Just find a way to turn it around. And that's what I find in a lot of situations these days, is people don't know how to. They think if you just hit them and say, "Oh, my authority," then it sets them in line. Not necessarily, because then you put them in a situation where, well, as long as I'm in the range of their authority, it applies. But if I find myself outside the range of their authority, I can do whatever I want. And that's what we call the danger zone. That's what we call, your 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds getting pregnant. That is what we call, the teenage son who's like, I'm fine enough to drive, after he's had, he downed the keg. So when your child reaches that sweet spot where they can look at something and say, that's something I shouldn't do, because I know why I shouldn't do it, you're good as gold.